What's up, fantasy managers? Welcome back to another episode of the First Pitch podcast brought to you by PitcherList.com. My name is Jake Crumpler, and I'll be your host for this edition of the pod. You can follow me on Twitter at Jake Crumpler, and you can find all of my work at CrumplerBaseball.com. Let's dive into everything baseball related from Monday, August 4th. We'll start it off, as always, with the transactions, injuries, news, and notes from around the league, kicking things off with the bad news. As starting pitcher Simeon Woods Richardson was placed on the 15-day IL with a stomach bug. He was trying to come back from it, but was unable to make his start over the weekend and will now spend the next couple weeks on the IL. Jose Urena will be the biggest benefactor of Woods Richardson's IL placement, as he'll continue to cover him in the rotation. In a corresponding move, relief pitcher Darren McCoffin was recalled from the minors. Next, we have second baseman Tommy Edman, who was placed on the 10-day IL with an ankle sprain, and that was expected. We talked about that yesterday. So Edman will miss at least the next 10 days, and it looks like Miguel Rojas will fill in at the keystone position, as he played second base in the first game of Edman's absence. In a corresponding move, third baseman Max Muncy was activated from the 15-day IL. He had been out with a knee bone bruise, and he'll return to being the Dodgers' everyday third baseman, which will force Alex Freeland to the bench. And next, we have third baseman Austin Riley, who was placed on the 10-day IL with an abdominal strain. Riley had just returned from a similar injury about a week ago, so he's likely due for a longer stint this time around. In a corresponding move, Nacho Alvarez Jr. was recalled from the minors and is expected to take over every day at the hot corner in Riley's absence. And lastly, closing pitcher Kevin Ginkel was placed on the 15-day IL with a shoulder sprain. He's undergoing further tests to determine the severity of the injury, but Ginkel is likely due for somewhat of an extended absence, at least longer than the minimum time. The Diamondbacks just cannot catch a break, as pretty much anybody named closer this year in Arizona has hit the IL for an extended period of time. This is already Ginkel's second IL stint, but remember, they lost to AJ Puck and Justin Martinez earlier this season. Shelby Miller is still on the IL. He's not even on the Diamondbacks anymore, but anybody that has filled the closer role has dealt with injuries for the Diamondbacks. In a corresponding move, Andrew Hoffman was recalled from the minors, but Kendall Graveman is likely to get the bulk of saves for the Diamondbacks. But Kyle Nelson, Jalen Beeks, and Kyle Backus are others that could contribute to the ninth inning in Arizona. In terms of transactions, outfielder Gerard Encarnacion, who had been out with an oblique strain, was activated from the 10-day IL. He'll be on the short side of a right field platoon with Grant McCray for the Giants. Luis Matos was optioned to the minors in a corresponding move. Next, we have starting pitcher Johan Oviedo, who was activated from the 60-day IL to make his season debut. He was recovering from Tommy John surgery, and he was not great versus the Giants in his return to the majors, lasting just one inning, allowing 2 hits and 2 earned runs while walking 3 and striking out 3. He induced 6 whiffs with 37% CSW across 43 pitches, and he'll get the Reds next, but I'm steering clear of Oviedo until he gets his footing in the majors. Genesis Cabrera was designated for assignment in a corresponding move. And lastly, starting pitcher Cade Povich was activated from the 15-day IL to start in Philadelphia. He had missed the past few weeks with hip inflammation and looked pretty solid in his return, tossing 5 2/3 innings, allowing 4 hits and 4 earned runs while walking 1 and punching out 7. He induced 10 whiffs with 36% CSW across 90 pitches. Povich will get the A's up next, and that one may be one to circle, as Povich has been pretty solid this year. The A's lineup is a bit scary, but they are without Jacob Wilson, and Nick Kurtz has slowed down a little bit. So I think Povich is somebody that we can trust streaming moving forward. In a corresponding move, Houston Roth was optioned to the minors. And in terms of news, starting pitcher Grayson Rodriguez will undergo elbow debridement surgery and will miss the remainder of the season. Pretty unfortunate news, but Rodriguez hasn't made a start all year long. So if you were hoping for him to make a late season debut, I don't think that was going to be in the cards anyway, considering how far out of the playoff race the Orioles are. But nonetheless, Rodriguez's elbow will no longer have a debridement surgery. But next, we have third baseman Isaac Paredes, who is receiving a PRP injection, a plasma-rich platelet injection in his hamstring to attempt to rehab and return this season instead of undergoing surgery. There was talks last week of Paredes having to undergo season-ending surgery on his hamstring, but it looks like he's going to go PRP route and see if he can make it back before the playoffs. Somebody else who got a PRP injection was outfielder Aaron Judge, who's been dealing with a flexor strain in his elbow. He's expected to be activated from the 10-day IL today. Unfortunately for the Yankees, I guess he'll be limited to DH duties to preserve his elbow. So he's still a couple weeks away from throwing, but nonetheless, Judge will be back in your fantasy lineups, and the Yankees will be happy to see his bat back in their lineup. Next, we have starting pitcher Michael Soroka, who made his debut for the Cubs yesterday and unfortunately was pulled early with shoulder discomfort, and now he's expected to be placed on the 15-day IL. Very unfortunate debut for Soroka. I was excited to see what he could do for the Cubs, but now he'll be out for at least the next 2 weeks. And lastly, starting pitcher Anthony Molina is expected to be recalled from the minors to start versus the Blue Jays for the Rockies. This is going to be in Coors, so it's not going to be a start I'm targeting in fantasy circles. Now we can take a look at our notable performances from Monday, a day in which we had just 13 games on our slate. We'll start it off with our hitters, leading off with shortstop Bo Bichette, who helped the Blue Jays to win in Colorado, going 3 for 6 with 2 runs, 2 home runs, and 6 RBIs. He's up to 15 homers on the year now. First one traveled 413 feet at 98 miles per hour, and the second one went 434 feet at 102 miles per hour. Bichette has historically been a much better hitter in the second half. Since his debut, he's posted a WRC plus in the second half, 22% better than the first, and the case is no different this year. Entering July, Bichette was batting .272 with 11 homers and a 104 WRC plus, but since the beginning of July, he's batted .382 with 4 homers and a 173 WRC plus. That doesn't even account for his 2-homer game yesterday, bringing his season-long batting average just 1 point shy of 300 and his OPS north of 800. He's also been on a crazy tear recently, as Bichette is batting .500 across his last 10 games, and he's also leading the majors with 141 hits. And after last year's .225 average and 70 WRC plus, Bichette has had an incredible bounce back season, setting him up for a big payday in free agency this winter. And lastly, we have outfielder Wenceel Perez, who helped the Tigers to win against the Twins, going 1 for 2 with a run, a home run, 2 RBIs, and a walk. It was his 9th homer of the year, and it traveled 372 feet at 103 miles per hour. Perez got off to a roaring start this year, batting .307 with 6 homers and a 174 WRC plus through his first 23 games, but he hit an awful rough patch through his next 25 games, batting just .172 with 1 homer and a measly 33 WRC plus, making fantasy managers question if Perez's hot start was just a mirage, but he's getting back on track as Monday's performance was just a continuation of his recent success, as Perez is batting .476 with a pair of long balls over his last 6 games. And honestly, I'm still buying into the young outfielder this year. The power he's added to his game this season is a huge difference maker, and combined with his ability to hit for pretty solid average and steal a handful of bags amid an underrated Tigers lineup, makes him someone to roster in most leagues with 5 outfielders. But if you'd like a breakdown of other notable hitting performances from Monday, check out the daily Batters Box article over on PitcherList.com. Now we'll head to the mound and check out some notable starting pitching performances, opening with Travis Adams, who did all he could, but the Twins lost in Detroit. He tossed 5 innings, allowing 4 hits and 2 earned runs while walking nobody and striking out 7, inducing 16 whiffs with 43% CSW across 63 pitches. Adams has made some appearances out of the bullpen this year, but this was the rookie's first big league start, and he did not disappoint, earning the golden goal as he led baseball with his 16 whiffs to earn the Gallows Pole and led baseball with his 43% CSW to earn the King Cole. Usually you don't see these kinds of numbers from someone across just 63 pitches, yet alone from a rookie, and especially one with a kitchen sink approach. Adams attacked the Tigers with 6 different offerings in this one, as his 4-seamer led the way with 6 whiffs and 58% CSW, and was supported by a pair of secondaries that were kept low in the zone. His slider induced 5 whiffs for 47% CSW, while his changeup returned 3 whiffs and 37% CSW. Then came a trio of offerings to keep him in at bats, a sinker, cutter, and curveball, each of which were thrown fewer than 10 times, but they aided in keeping him efficient by earning strikes and outs in play. I'm going to have to see more from Adams before fully buying in, especially with the Yankees in the Bronx up next. But a golden goal is a great endorsement, and he definitely has caught my eye now. And lastly, we've got Jason Alexander, who helped the Astros to win in Miami, tossing 6 shutout innings, allowing just 3 hits and 1 walk while striking out 6. He induced 10 whiffs with 30% CSW across 97 pitches. And I actually suggested streaming hitters against Alexander on Monday, and he went out and had the best start of his career, of course. Sharing the namesake of a Seinfeld actor, Alexander was a notable call-up back in 2022, but he disappeared for a few years before making his return to the big leagues this year with the A's and the Astros. He's looked much better in Houston and is making the most of his opportunity in a rotation hampered by injuries. On Monday, Alexander found success via sinker called strikes, not sustainable by any means, but certainly effective as he stole 12 called strikes with the pitch for 34% CSW, filling up the zone with his heater before dropping sweepers and changeups below it. Alexander's slow ball was his best offering, cooking up 7 whiffs for 32% CSW, while the breaker matched it with 32% CSW on a pair of whiffs. I'm not buying this performance one bit from Alexander. We haven't seen this at all from him throughout his career, and it was heavily reliant on the success of his sinker getting called strikes, but it was dope to see him prove me wrong with a career night. We're avoiding Alexander with the Red Sox up next. But if you'd like a breakdown of every single start from Monday, give the Plus Pitch podcast a listen and check out Nick's daily SP roundup over on PitcherList.com. Now we'll head to the bullpen and check out the relievers that got saves and the closers that pitched outside of save situations or blew their saves. Starting with the former, Kyle Finnegan continues to appear to be the closer for the Tigers, recording his 22nd save with a scoreless ninth. Aroldis Chapman pitched a perfect ninth for his 21st save. Nick Enright recorded the first save of his career as he worked around the zombie runner, scoring in the 10th inning. It's a pretty fun story. Nick Enright, this was just his 19th appearance in the big leagues, and he's also been undergoing cancer treatment for the past couple of years. So pretty impressive for him to go out there and not only just pitch in a baseball game, but to get a save in a Major League Baseball game is pretty impressive. So hats off to Nick Enright. Cade Smith did pitch in that run with that one, recording 4 outs across the 8th and 9th. Trevor McGill pitched a perfect ninth for his 25th save. Emilio Pagan recorded his 24th save with a perfect ninth, and Kyle Backus recorded his first save of the year as he pitched a scoreless 8th and 9th. An insurance run in the 8th kept Kendall Graveman rested. He was also on back-to-back days, so he wasn't going to be used anyway. And lastly, Jojo Romero recorded his second save with a scoreless 9th as he takes over the 9th inning for the Cardinals after the departure of Ryan Helsley at the deadline. And in terms of closers to pitch outside of save situations or blow their saves, Randy Rodriguez surrendered 2 runs in the 9th to blow his 3rd save and take his 3rd loss. He was so good in the first half, and now with Camilo Doval out of San Francisco, Rodriguez is getting a shot at the closer role, which is something we've been hoping for all season long, but he is not doing the best with it. So hopefully Rodriguez turns it around. Edwin Diaz pitched a scoreless 9th in a tie game that the Mets would lose in 10 innings. And lastly, Devin Williams served up a game-tying homer in the 9th to blow his 3rd save. The Yankees would lose that one in 10 innings. But if you'd like more information on relief pitchers, check out Rick Graham's weekly articles over on PitcherList.com. And before we look forward to today's games, we're going to take a quick break. Now we'll look forward to Tuesday, August 5th, a day in which we'll have a full slate of 15 games. My matchup of the day is Nathan Eovaldi versus Will Warren. We just saw a great Rangers versus Yankees matchup yesterday, and Eovaldi has been dope all year long. Pretty sure he just won AL Pitcher of the Month too, so excited to see how he follows that up in August. And Will Warren has been solid all year long, definitely has a higher ceiling than he's displayed, has had some incredible starts this year, so I'm excited to see this pitching matchup, Eovaldi versus Will Warren. In terms of probable starters, we've got 7 guys in the auto starts tier, including Eovaldi. We've also got Garrett Crochet versus the Royals, Brian Wu versus the White Sox, and Shota Imanaga versus the Reds. Our probably starts tier has 8 guys, and that's where we'll find our streamer of the day in Emmett Sheehan versus the Cardinals. Not only does Sheehan have great stuff, but he pitches for a good team, gets him a great shot at a win pitching for the Dodgers, and he faces a lineup that is not too scary. The Cardinals, it's not a depleted lineup, but they are without Nolan Arenado. They traded away some pieces at the deadline, not really from the lineup, but nonetheless, Sheehan should be somebody to target as a streamer on Tuesday. I'd also keep an eye out for Zebby Matthews in Detroit. Not the best matchup against him, but Zebby Matthews has dope stuff, and I'm excited to see what he does throughout his career. His name is just so cool, not just by itself, and that's honestly enough for me to want to stream him, but he's also got really great stuff with an upper 90s heater and supporting secondaries that should allow him some success against the Tigers. In terms of hitter suggestions, I'd be looking at Blue Jays and Rockies hitters in Coors, pretty self-explanatory, but we'll see Jose Barrios take on Anthony Molina in that one. I'd also target Christian Walker versus Cal Quantrill in Lone Depot Park. Walker has destroyed Quantrill in his career, batting .467 with 2 homers and a .1467 OPS in 15 at-bats. I'll also look at Willie Castro versus Zach Littell in Wrigley. Castro has batted .300 with a homer and a .1017 OPS in 10 at-bats against Littell. I'm also looking at Giancarlo Stanton versus Nathan Eovaldi in Globe Life Field. He's got a pretty large sample against him, batting .250 with 4 homers and a .921 OPS in 36 at-bats. And Stanton has been on fire recently and did go deep last night as well. And I'll also target Padres and Diamondbacks hitters in Chase Field. We'll see Yu Darvish take on Ryan Nelson. Darvish was much better last time out, but there's something about the historical matchups here where there's a lot of Diamondbacks hitters that have had success against Darvish and vice versa, Padres hitters against Ryan Nelson. Most notably, Corbin Carroll has batted .533 with 2 homers and a .1678 OPS in 15 at-bats against Darvish. And now we'll close things out with our relievers to watch. Aroldis Chapman has pitched in 3 of the past 4 days. So if the Red Sox opt to give him the day off, we can see Greg Weisser or Jordan Hicks take over the 9th inning for the Red Sox. But that'll do it for today's episode of the First Pitch Podcast. Make sure to head on over to pitcherlist.com to check out all of the great articles and features we have on the site. Sign up for PL Plus or PL Pro to gain access to the Discord and to support the Pitcher List staff. You can follow me on Twitter at Jake Crumpler. Tune in live on YouTube tomorrow and every day for a new installment of the podcast. And make sure to enjoy the day as we are blessed with another day of baseball.